Welcome back to NBA Cinema. So we got to talk more about Mike Brown. We've seen several coaches around the NBA come out and show their respect for him, how revered he is amongst his peers. You see some of the players coming out, former players of the Sacramento Kings, Boogie Cousins. He said Mike wasn't the problem. The way they lost that game against the Pistons the other night, poor execution late, foul on DeAaron Fox, bad closeout, gave up a three and lost the game by 1 point. Absolutely uh, stunning way for the game to end. We see right here Doug Christie, the interim coach, running his first practice, um, getting ready to step in and lead the guys. Now, there's rumors that he's going to join his college buddy, Bam Adebayo, who both played at Kentucky, and, the Heat are going to try to make a run at this thing. De'Aaron Fox spoke about both Mike Brown getting fired, and he also spoke about the state of his relationship with the organization. We're going to get into that first, and we're going to continue.
Your reaction to this last 24 hours or so?
It was surprising. I found out a minute before everybody else did. So,
How's it landed with you and with this team?
I've been through a coaching change before. I think for some of the guys, it's the first time. But, you got to keep moving. I think this is game 32, so you still have a long season to go.
Mike had just pulled you aside right before that practice, and he kind of shared a little bit of it with us, obviously, before he got let go. What did you take from that moment? Did it in any way feel like that might be the last conversation you'd be having with him as head coach?
Not at all. We were talking about in-game stuff, what we do towards the end of games, and then we find out on the way to the plane. So, no, it's not something that you expected, and definitely didn't know that, that little conversation that's really normal would have been the last one of him as our head coach.
When we talked to you over the summer, he had just had his extension, and you talked about having that continuity with a head coach. Had any of that changed from that moment in June to where you are today?
Not at all.
What was the plane ride like? What was it like being there and finding it out, and you all kind of wondering what was going to happen there?
So we left a little bit later because things have to happen. After figuring out who the next head coach is and things of that nature. But Doug addressed us before we took off, and after that, the plane ride was normal. I went to sleep.
As a player, like when something happens like this, any pressure or guilt you feel when something big happens, like
Pressure or guilt?
like when something gets fired, do you feel like from a player standpoint?
Obviously, we all know the job that we have. You could be traded at any point, released, cut, fired, whatever it may be. I wouldn't use the word guilt, but that's the nature of the job that we have. But obviously, him signing his extension this summer, we felt like we'd be together, a whole lot longer. But that's the decision that they made. But at the end of the day, too, he's still getting paid. It's a great part of being an NBA player, being an NBA coach is those things can happen, but his contracts are guaranteed. So,
in the wake of all this, do you expect to, I don't know if it's happened yet, it's been so quick, but do you expect to have maybe conversations with front office ownership to kind of give your thoughts on maybe where things are at?
They knew where I stood this summer, so nothing really left to be said about that.
When he said he's not trading Jimmy Butler, and I wasn't speaking because I talked to the Heat, just speaking to knowing Pat Riley, I said, yet.
Thank you, Smitty, because
Yes.
Ira just said it. If Jimmy don't see a 3-year deal out there in a trade, a sign and trade, he's gonna opt in. $52 million, and I'm gonna walk away from it, and then go out here and find me a deal. That ain't happening, Captain.
Yeah.
He's gonna opt in if he don't get traded. So to Ira's point, if you're Miami Heat and Pat Riley, do you want to deal with Jimmy Butler at $52 million, and he's gonna be an unrestricted free agent? No, that would be a nightmare scenario. So to me, I think he's going to get moved. And now that De'Aaron Fox and the things that have happened in Sacramento with Mike Brown, don't be surprised. I smell a fox in Miami.
Oh, that's going to be.
I see a 3-team
Yes, I'm
That's going to
telling you.
be.
with the Warriors.
That's going to be.
Now, ironically enough, Erik Spoelstra spoke with Mike Brown, after he got fired the same night. He said, I texted with him last night. It's just a really sad state of our profession. It seems like I'm making comments about coaches far too often. Somebody on our staff mentioned that it was almost 15 coaches in Sacramento since I've been a head coach. They've had some really good head coaches come through there. Mike and I go all the way back to the beginning. We were both video coordinators. He's a great coach. What they did there is really hard to do. If you've been losing for 15, 20 years since Rick Adelman was there, and to change the culture and make the playoffs, you stick with it. Some of our best moments have been when we've lost or we struggled with things, and you all get in a room, and basically the organization says, figure it the F out. There are no changes. So I feel for Mike having to go through that. He was the same guy who was coach of the year less than 24 months ago. This league is hard. You have to go through adversity together as an organization if you're going to break through and get to the other side. But yeah, that sucks.
Thing that can hurt us is a 3. And, I need to go back and watch the film to see exactly where Fox was, but there was no reason for there to be a hard closeout. We were okay with them scoring a 2 at the rim, so you should not be in position to help at all. Somehow, some way, we got to pay attention to details for a little longer, especially down the stretch of a game, and we got to keep our pace up. That's who we are. Tough loss that, at worst, should have gone into overtime. At worst. Because there shouldn't have been a closeout to any. There shouldn't have been a closeout to any three-point shooter.
Just where was the shell shock after that in the locker room? I mean, do you get a sense of that at all from your guys?
It's a tough loss, especially when we control the game like we did, and then we come to a stop at the end in the fourth quarter. We give up 37 points. 37 points. And part of the 37, we got to have some form of mental toughness. We're getting hit with screens, and we literally stop. Stop and look and complain to the referee. That's not winning basketball. Somehow, some way, we know a team's going to fight. We know the game's going to get physical. We can't look at the refs asking to bail us out on the offense end of the floor or on the defense end of the floor.
Okay, so let me give my spiel on this completely. When I look at this situation, Mike Brown has always been one of those guys around the NBA that I respect as a head coach. You remember him in LeBron's younger days over there in Cleveland, coaching LeBron is kind of where most people, that were just casual started to know who Mike Brown was, but he worked his way up from the video room, just like Erik Spoelstra said. And I remember his teams was founded on defense. And, just recently, he was coaching the Golden State Warriors when Kerr was out sick all that time. Remember, he was an assistant over there. Then he transitioned over to Sacramento. Sacramento had that instant success. And then, he goes on to win Coach of the Year, and things is looking up with DeMontis. Now, they didn't live up to it that very next season. Maybe Keegan Murray didn't take the step. I remember Mike Brown saying Keegan could be one of those guys, but he kind of just stayed the same player he was. Pretty much didn't take that next step to become the third guy. So they went out and got DeMar DeRozan. We're thinking maybe they would get back on track this season. And it hasn't happened to this point, but they're not so far out of it. If they can put, like an 8-10 game win streak together, something like that, they can be in the thick of things again. But, and we're going to see how this works, right? But firing Mike Brown, I think it's a lot going on with that team right now. You bring in a DeMar DeRozan, so you're trying to be a 5 seed or be a 6 seed right now. That's what you're aiming for at this point. Domantas Sabonis, DeAaron Fox, you're looking to win now, but Fox, didn't do the extension with the team. So now you have your franchise player. You don't know if he's going to be back next season. You see what I'm saying? And so you're playing with that all season. That typically isn't a formula for success for teams. I know Kawhi Leonard was traded to Toronto, and they were able to get that ring that year. But in typical cases, um, when your franchise player seems to be looking elsewhere or something's going on with the front office, because you heard his answer. He had a straight answer about what he felt about the front office. He said they knew where I stood this summer. So the negotiation probably won't happen, and it seems likely he won't be back. Now, the thing that's going to happen with the way this thing is going, though, if you look at it, they're not going to just let him walk this summer. So you hear them talking about they see a deal where he ends up in Miami, 3-team deal. A lot of teams showing interest in DeAaron Fox. And Sacramento could get a lot back. Get some draft picks. You can get some good players right now. So my thing, though, is if you do get some good players back, it'll depend on who you get. If you're going to stay with all the other players that have big contracts right now, or you just start from the ground up. They have a lot to figure out. In Sac Town, there's no scenario. DeAaron Fox is probably back with the team anyway. So I don't know if you can put this firing on him. I thought Mike Brown brought out the best in DeAaron Fox, that he has had throughout his career. Now, DeAaron Fox has been a good player. Can work on his free throws a little bit. Seems like he was shooting a little better this year, but it's kind of low for a point guard at times, his percentage. But he's played in his most meaningful games in his career with Mike Brown. And sometimes when you're coaching somewhere like Sacramento, you got to give somebody some leash, man. You can't just say, they won that one year and they was on an upward trajectory, and now we got to move on. Again, we're going to see if this is the way, but coaching in Sacramento is a different beast. Like they said, they haven't had consistent winning since Rick Adelman was there. So you have to look at that, and you have to think in your mind logically, who are we going to go find that really coaches these guys? Because Mike Brown is going to coach your superstar. And I know we're living in the day and age where you can't actually coach the players because the players run everything. The max contract franchise player runs everything. But I miss the days when you could coach play. Only situation you can coach a player is, it used to be Greg Popovich in San Antonio, and also you got Spoelstra because he got the backing of Pat Riley. But most of these guys, like J.J. Redick and them, can't coach LeBron James. They run everything. You can't coach certain stars. Oh, yeah, and I think Joe Mazzulla can coach Tatum and Brown. They allow themselves to be coached. But a lot of players don't allow themselves to be coached. And I think that's one of the things Mike Brown, his decorated resume, what he brings to the table, man, I don't think he should have lost his job. But again, time will tell. We'll see what Doug Christie do with his opportunity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time.